So yeah, that's the story. That's the story they told us. So what's the point? I said, after what I lived there, that really war is not the worst. Not the worst thing to see. There are worse things. Honestly, I'd rather be sent to the worst hellhole in this country or any country for the rest of my life than to have to see what I saw and be where I've been in that mountain. I'm serious about it. Suddenly, in the town, started to happen strange things. The guerrillas left. They went from attacking us every night and shooting us to our posts from the mountains, shooting mortars every now and then, to nothing. From one moment to another, complete silence. No shootings, no problem. I remember that the night after that happened, first the inhabitants said that they were hearing very strange noises, even stranger than the ones they usually heard. They say they heard a lot of screaming, a lot of shooting, but the shooting was not aimed at us. Like there was fighting in the mountains, a war in the mountains, but not with us, not with our team. That is the first time I heard it. The first time I heard it was that night. I heard the screaming. That was the first time I heard them. I didn't believe it. I didn't believe there was some screaming ghost in the mountains, but that night I heard the screaming. And not just from one place, from many places. Came from many places in the mountain, and they were not normal. They were screams of pure agony. I have heard a lot of screams. A lot. I have heard someone getting shot, someone losing a loved one in the battle. But no, this was not a normal scream. No. That night, when we heard that, we sent one of the squads, we sent it to see what was happening and to drive any guerrillas out of there. And the squad disappeared. In the morning, we decided to go into the mountain. We decided to go and see what happened. When we got to the mountain, the first thing we saw was, after walking at least half an hour inside, we found the body of a rebel. The man was laying in the ground, had a bullet wound to the head and the gun at his hand. Had no eyes. He killed himself. Okay, he's dead. After we saw that rebel, no eyes, suicide, we were shocked. I mean, another case like before. Despite that in the village they said last night that what was happening was that the devil appeared in the mountain. That the devil was there and that it wasn't good to go there for at least 6 days. We didn't know what to believe, but we had to be there. We had to go for our men, our friends. We couldn't let them there. We couldn't do that. We kept walking and found a boy, a rebel, a boy of 15. He had cut his throat with a knife, and the same, no eyes. We kept walking and found about other 10 rebels. We saw everything. We saw everything. Rebels who exploded their grenade in the chest, the ones that had put the rifle to the mouth, the one that got the prize was a soldier, a rebel, that had the nerve to bash his head into a stone, I don't know, 50 times. He was messed up. I don't know how he did it. Cranium open, brains, and all of them, all we found, all the fucking soldiers we found, no eyes, no tongue. All. The champion, the winner, was the one of the rebels. This one was sitting down against a tree, no eyes. We thought he was dead. The medic and I approached to examine. I remember the medic came closer and told me he's alive, but I saw him and I thought, isn't he dead? The face he had his jaw wide open. He was completely tense. I thought it was rigor mortis, but the medic said he's alive and pointed to his chest. And I saw his chest. He was emitting a sound, pretty quiet. It was a scream. He was screaming, probably still screaming from last night. And his vocal cords gave up. I heard a whistling just like air coming out, like he was being squeezed. I pointed at him while the medic got close to see what happened, to try and communicate with him. When he touched him, the rebel threw himself back in a jump. Boom! He took a knife he had from a pocket and started stabbing his chest. Over and over again. He wasn't even aiming at his heart, he just, the chest, until he died. I didn't even have time to shoot him, just there. After that, the other soldiers of our squad, about half of the squad, decided to go. I told them I would get them to court-martial if they went, but they didn't care less. So they left. They went to the town. Only 4 people and me were left, and we continued to search the area. We found a clearing, and there were about 3 bodies, the same thing, same MO, same bullshit. In this case, while we examined the bodies, we saw one of our men was staring a point in the distance by the trees, staring very closely. We asked him what happened. What are you looking at? There's someone there. He went quiet, and then after like a trance, told us there was someone watching deep in the trees, that we were being watched. So then we decided to go extra careful, even more than we already were. And then when we entered that place, when we got further in that direction, we found what we found. In the riverbed of Río Gris, we got there, there was a rock formation. But they were not normal stones. No, they were spherical, about a meter in diameter. They were spherical stones, totally spherical, placed in a hexagonal formation. 6 rocks in total. In the middle of the formation, there was a space filled with objects. What we managed to see was uniforms from the guerrillas, Kalashnikovs, pistols, grenades, knives, flashlights. We found rations, everything. So when we found that and examined the hole, we remembered the story of the witch. And for a moment we were decided to get out. In fact, after we did that, I was going to tell to the squad to get the fuck out of there. Because that wasn't natural. None of it was natural. Nothing. In my career have I seen something like that. But no, we didn't go. We stayed there checking that shit. And that was the worst mistake in my life. The worst mistake was staying there, because while we were checking those objects, that booty, when we were checking that, in the other side of the river, the medic, Ramirez, saw one of our lost soldiers and told us there he is and started calling him. Robert. And yes, indeed, from the other side of the river you could see how they came, our soldiers. But we didn't just see them, we heard them. They were screaming so loud. They were screaming like something was squeezing them. They were not screaming for help. In fact, I think they had been screaming all night, and still they had strength to scream. And they came from the other side of the river. It was then that when we saw what we saw, behind them came something that shouldn't exist. That's the only thing I can say, because I saw something there, but I can't even describe it. Something behind those soldiers came and we started shooting. Instinct, whatever. We fired, boom. We all fired. I don't know if we hit the other soldiers, but it would have been a favor to them. But while we fired, in those fractions of seconds we reacted. The shell, that's why I'm alive. The shell casing from the bullet of one of my soldiers bounced and hit me in the eye and burned it. It burned my eyelid a little. I jumped back and fell on my back and was a little stunned, not just for what I saw, but because of the fall. I hit really hard. When I fell on my back to the floor of the mountain, I heard how my squad fired at that, and the sound of the bullets and the weapons of my men started to be silenced by their own screams. The medic, Ramirez, Fernando, Jose, they all started screaming. And while they screamed, they fired, and that sound still haunts me at night when I remember it. Because honestly, I don't know how a human being can muffle the sound of a firearm, a rifle, with a scream. But they did, they screamed. I thought of getting up and open fire, but I immediately realized that I had to get out. The hell with it, the hell with everyone, I couldn't stay there. So I threw myself back and avoided to even see where that thing was. I closed my eyes and ran with my eyes closed in that fucking mountain. I ran, I tripped, I fell, I ran. I fell into rocks. I broke something, I don't know, I just kept running and running until something, the shock, made me forget a lot that happened. And I woke up by the river near the town. I heard, still with my eyes closed, the sound of a helicopter, of several soldiers arriving, putting me in a stretcher and getting me out. You are going to ask me that, man, what you saw there was the witch or the devil of the story. You know what? I don't know what I saw. For me, those legends have no meaning. They are simply stories that people make to explain something they don't understand. I don't remember what it was. When I remember that day in the river, I don't have a mental image of it. I don't have a shape, a color, anything. But I see that every night when I sleep. Every night I repeat the same events of what I live. And I see it clearly. But as in any dream, when I wake up, I forget what it was I saw there. I know it's something that we are not made to understand or see. I know it's something that escapes any form or logic that we can have. And you know what? I believe the story of the witch. I believe she saw something in that mirror. And I believe that part is pretty right. And I believe someone can get mad that way. Because I saw my friends get mad. I saw when the dogs in their cages tried to escape desperately from Rio Gris after hearing the screams. I was there when the inhabitants put reggaeton and vallenato at full volume every night to avoid hearing the sounds of the mountain. I was there. I was there when that monstrosity came out from the other side of the river. And that's my story. There are things in this world we can't understand. And maybe because of that is that after what happened, they sent other 4 units to see what happened, to rescue the soldiers, to retrieve the bodies. And those 4 military units disappeared too. It all disappeared. Everything that went there after those days disappeared. To the point where Rio Gris doesn't exist. In the news it came out a long time ago when this happened. Rio Gris occupied by rebels and destroyed. In guerrilla attack, inhabitants displaced. The townfolk, they left, but not because of the war. The townfolk left because they didn't want to hear more screams at night. And the government? Erased? every existence, every trace of that town. That's the story of Rio Gris, a town that doesn't exist. You search it anywhere, doesn't exist. The road that leads to Rio Gris was demolished, was destroyed. That's the story of that town, that's the story of what happened to me. The only thing I wanna say is that if you ever go to the Cauca and find a road filled with dirt and a corroded sign where you can read Rio Gris, don't go there. Don't go there. There are worse things than war. There are worse things than death. You don't want to know what crawls through the forest in that place.